I just got the chemical analysis results back from White Labs for my latest batch of variable dunderclap, which means I now have data from 3 different batches of variable dunderclap as well as data from 4 different batches of baseline to compare, so we can finally start to draw some conclusions about what adding dunder actually does to your rum. And I want to talk about that today, so that's what we're going to dive into. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Robin from This Blog's Neat and Rum et al. And my Patreons requested this video, my Patreon members. So thank you to them. They're going to have access to this video first so that they can ask any questions that I don't address in this video. But yeah, so you have my Patreons to thank for this. But I shared with them the chemical analysis results that I just got back from White Labs for my 3rd batch of dunderclap. And they wanted me to break it down and compare it with my other batches and compare it with baseline and actually talk about what is happening during the fermentation that might be responsible for how the chemical analysis kind of changes from batch to batch. If you're new here and have no idea what variable dunderclap is or baseline is, go ahead and check out the videos down below where I break down exactly how I make my baseline rum recipe and how variable dunderclap is different from that baseline recipe. But essentially baseline is molasses, water, and yeast, double pot distilled, bottled unaged, and variable dunderclap now has dunder added into the fermentation, and everything else is kept the same. Same molasses, same yeast, same fermentation time, also double pot distilled. The distillation cuts are kept as consistent as possible between all of my batches. And yeah, bottled unaged, so we can see the direct impact that adding dunder has on the flavor profile of a rum. Because I feel like people hear dunder and they think super funky, super high ester Jamaican rums. However, dunder is just one teeny tiny part of what makes high ester rums, what makes them super funky. It's one tiny part. And by making baseline and variable dunderclap, I wanted to highlight those differences and how dunder does impact the flavor profile. However, it's not as dramatic and crazy as we might think. Yeah, so let's dive straight into the data. I'm going to share with you my spreadsheet that has all of the data for all of my batches, including variable tailspin is in there as well, but we're not going to quite look at that. We're going to look at variable dunderclap first and kind of see how the 3 batches compare. Because, to my delight, batches 2 and 3 were remarkably close to one another. And as I have discussed with my Patreons in the past, my baseline results are wildly inconsistent. And so I assumed that my dunderclap results would be as well, because dunderclap first batch and second batch were not very close to one another. There was a huge difference there. One thing that might be causing this is that I use a essentially multi-generational dunder. However, for my first batch of dunderclap, it was first generation. So it was just the dunder from my very first batch of baseline that went into that fermentation. However, for batches 2 and 3, that has dunder from multiple batches of baseline tossed in there, from dunderclap, from tailspin as well. So it is a multi-generational dunder. And although I can't really tell you how exactly the composition of the dunder is changing with each generation, I can tell you there is an impact. And I know that there are a bunch of home distillers out there that would agree with me that have noticed that, after a few batches is when you actually start to get really great flavor coming from your rums made with that dunder. That's an interesting thing that I would like to explore one day, is how the actual generation number of the dunder impacts the chemical composition of the rum, but that's beyond the scope of what we're diving into today. So anyways, back to the chemical analysis of variable dunderclap batches 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, White Labs does the chemical analysis for 10 different analytes. I have mentioned this in other videos. This is not the full picture of what is actually impacting the flavor profile of the rum, right? There's a lot more going on, but they just test for 10 different analytes. So we're going to look at these 10 different analytes, knowing that there are other flavor and aroma compounds that are playing a role in the flavor profile. But this is what we have data on right now. So as you can see with batches 2 and 3, the amyl alcohol concentration is essentially identical, which is so cool. The amyl alcohol concentration for batches 2 and 3 is also much higher than batch 1, but again, there's a difference in the generations and yeah. I think it's cool that batches 2 and 3 are really close to one another. Isobutanol is also relatively close for batches 2 and 3. We have 61.5 and 63.8 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol versus the, again, much lower concentration for batch 1 at 23.7 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. I would also conclude that isoamyl acetate, ethyl butyrate, isobutyl acetate are essentially the same, right? This is such a small concentration, but they do appear to be relatively consistent for all 3 batches. Acetaldehyde, I would also say, is relatively close for all 3 batches. We have 14.4, 16.2, and 13.9 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. Relatively consistent, I would say. Interestingly, 1-propanol and methanol both increase with each batch. Could this be a fluke, something that's just happens to be what we're observing, or is it that the concentration of propanol and methanol actually builds within the dunder with each generation? I'm not sure. I'll have to do more batches to actually find out. Acetone is kind of all over the place, and I'd probably conclude that that's more so due to tiny variations in my distillation cuts, perhaps my heads cut, than anything. Ethyl acetate are esters, right? This is the most predominant ester in rum and all spirits, and this is the one we really want to focus on, right? Because the whole idea of adding dunder is to try and build up this ester concentration. So ethyl acetate, for instance, super low for my very first batch of variable dunderclap. That I did not necessarily expect. However, it was higher than my first batch of baseline. Anyways, I would say ethyl acetate, less consistent, however, still relatively high between batches 2 and 3. So we have 109.2 and 83.4 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. Again, not super close, but I'd say relatively close enough. So in order to compare these results with baseline, I want to take averages, and because I have 3 batches of variable dunderclap and 4 batches of baseline, I feel like I can actually do this, even though there is wide variations or wide ranges for each of the chemical compounds here. But let's take some averages so that we can see if there are any trends that we can maybe conclude based on those averages. I'd say there's no real differences between 1-propanol and methanol when dunder is added into the fermentation. However, I'd say that the amyl alcohols and isobutanol are both greater in baseline, which I find really interesting, and we'll talk about that in a second. Ethyl acetate, acetaldehyde, acetone, isobutyl acetate, ethyl butyrate, those are all appear to be greater in dunderclap. Isoamyl acetate, I'm going to call inconclusive. And that's mostly due to the fact that the range for baseline is anywhere between 0.3 and 2.2 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. So baseline's kind of all over the place as far as isoamyl acetate concentration is concerned. So I'm going to kind of call that inconclusive. But overall, if we were to summarize kind of what these averages are telling us, what happens when you add dunder to the fermentation? We can see that the ester concentration, which is driven by ethyl acetate concentration, this is the case for all spirits, is greater when you add dunder to the fermentation. However, the total congener concentration, and more importantly, I think focusing on the fusel alcohols is lower when you add dunder. I found this really, really interesting, and that's mostly driven by the amyl alcohol concentration. So when we add dunder to the fermentation, we are adding in a whole bunch of nutrients, organic acids, those nutrients being amino acids, peptides, minerals, dead yeast cells as well. There are things within the dunder that are beneficial for the fermentation, as well as the organic acids, you might argue, stress out the yeast a little bit. And having the ester concentration be higher in a rum that's made using dunder than a rum made without dunder makes sense, because we're adding organic acids or carboxylic acids into the fermentation, which is going to drive the esterification reactions, right? You're adding more reactants, which is going to drive that reaction forward to produce more esters. So when we have more carboxylic acids in the fermentation, we expect there to be more esters being produced. Now, the fusel alcohols, or the higher alcohols, those are produced via the Ehrlich pathway, which is the degradation of amino acids during fermentation. That's how we get these higher alcohols, these fusel alcohols or fusel oils being produced. So I would think, again, if you're adding in dunder into the fermentation, which contains amino acids, that would drive more amino acids, would drive the Ehrlich pathway forward, which means an increase in fusel alcohols. That's what I would think. However, my chemical analysis results do not show that. And when I dove into it a little bit further, it appears that there are some other studies as well that show that that's not the case. Increasing the amino acid concentration, generally speaking, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an increase in fusel alcohol production. And that's because it depends on what type of amino acids or what types of amino acids are being added in. So let's kind of look at these fusel alcohols again and how they're behaving when dunder is added into the fermentation. We have 1-propanol, which seems to be about the same between baseline and dunderclap, right? Not really changing. And propanol comes from the degradation of threonine. We also have isobutanol, which does appear to be decreasing with the addition of dunder, and that comes from valine, or the degradation of valine. And then we have our amyl alcohols, which come from the degradation of isoleucine and leucine. And our amyl alcohols are the big fusel alcohols that are driving our congener concentration and our fusel alcohol concentration. So we have amyl alcohols and isobutanol, which are decreasing with the addition of dunder, and 1-propanol, which is staying about the same, unchanged. Something interesting about valine, isoleucine, and leucine is that those are branched chain amino acids. Like I said, the types of amino acids that you're adding into the fermentation are the important part rather than the total amount of amino acids. So ultimately, adding dunder to the fermentation is creating a different nutrient environment that potentially has more readily available nitrogen sources for the yeast so that it doesn't have to degrade other amino acids, mainly our branched chain amino acids. And that's why we're seeing a decrease in the total amyl alcohol production with the addition of dunder into the fermentation. So in summary, based on my results, it seems that adding dunder to the fermentation increases ester production and decreases the fusel alcohol production, mainly amyl alcohols. And I think that's really cool, and I'm happy to share those results with you guys. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Also, thank you to my Patreons for asking for this video. It was a really fun one to do. Also, if you'd like to support this channel beyond the normal YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, share the video with your friends, all the other things, I would be so grateful if you joined us over on Patreon. I've got a link down below in the description where you can join us over there, and I try to give you guys behind the scenes snippets of what I'm working on and behind the scenes discussions on things like this. And yeah, just overall, I try to keep my Patreons in the loop of what I've got going on. And with that, guys, let me know if you have any questions at all, or if you've done experiments like this with and without Dunder and have noticed a big difference in the flavor profile of your rum. Please, I'd love to hear about it.